Hello, I'm Grant.
And I'm Sean.
And this is Crash Course World History.
Today we'll be learning about one of the biggest series of events in history, the Cold War.
The Cold War was a war of ideas between democracy and communism.
The Cold War started because of distrust between communism and democracy, and the fact that the U.S. was in possession of nuclear weapons. The communists and the Democrats both had a really good reason for distrusting each other, seeing as Joseph Stalin killed over 20 million of his own people. This never actually happened during the Cold War, and no other cars or people were exploded either. This was because the Cold War was a pretty non-violent war. It involved almost no fighting between nations at all.
In 1948, near the beginning of the Cold War, the Soviet Union wanted all of the German capital of Berlin for itself. This led to the Berlin Air Split. The Soviet Union cut off all access to supplies, hoping the other three occupied zones of Berlin would leave. Instead, America and its allies brought over 2.3 million tons of cargo.
Another big event was the Red Scare. This was the fear that communism would spread to the United States. Senator Joe McCarthy began to accuse people of being communist with little evidence, ruining their lives and careers.
A major part of the Cold War was the space race. The US and Soviets wanted to prove either democracy or communism was better because of its technology.
The Soviet Union started by sending the first artificial satellite, Sputnik, into space on October 4th, 1957. Another big move by the Soviet Union was sending Yuri Gagarin, the first man in space, on April 12th, 1961.
The United States made a gigantic step ahead by sending the first man to the moon on July 16th, 1969.
The first two men to walk on the moon were Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, while the third man was orbiting around the moon waiting for their departure. Another huge part of the Cold War was the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Cuban Missile Crisis started on October 14th, 1962. This was when the Soviet Union began giving nuclear weapons to Fidel Castro, the Cuban leader. This was a major part of the Cold War and one of the scariest because it was the closest the world got to a nuclear war, which could have killed a whole lot of people.
The Cold War finally ended when the Soviet Union dissolved into 15 different countries in December 1991. Oh, what's this? It's time for the mystery document. But why some say the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why 35 years ago fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. I think this is John F. Kennedy talking about the space race versus the Soviet Union in the 1960s.